Hello everyone and welcome to Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimaloye in Lagos. Tonight we get a response to the grievances of the university lecturers. The Minister of Labour, Senator Chris Ngige, should be joining us in a moment from now to give the federal government stance on the matter. But first, let's tell you that the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the Ondo State governorship election, Mr. Eyitayo Jegede, says he will be challenging the outcome of the Ondo governorship election, where the APC candidate, Rotimi Akeredolu, the governors, got a re-election. Mr. Jegede and the PDP have approached the elections tribunal to challenge the result of the October 10 election. The PDP candidate is challenging the election on the grounds that the election was marred by irregularities and pockets of violence and intimidation. This comes 3 weeks after the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, declared the incumbent governor, Rotimi Akeredolu, as a winner in the race. Yesterday on the program, we took a look at education under President Muhammadu Buhari, precisely public universities and the plight of university lecturers. So the president of the Academic Staff Union of University in Nigeria and the Association of Nigerian Lecturers in Nigeria's Public School, ASU, was on the program. Professor Abiodun Ogunyemi, he spoke about the agitation which led to the lecturers down tooling for about 6 months now. After their meeting with the federal government about 2 days ago, the federal government delegation and ASU, they couldn't agree. Yesterday, Professor Abiodun Ogunyemi, the president of ASU, spoke to us, and some of the issues he raised include the disagreement over the payroll system offered by the federal government, which is called the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information System, IPPIS, as against the payroll system suggested and put forward by the university lecturers as an alternative, the University Transparency Accountability Solution, UTAS. He also said the teachers are being owed several months of salaries. Tonight, we shall be hearing from the federal government their perspectives on the matter. We are able to have the Minister of Labour and Employment, Senator Chris Ngige, hoping that he will join us to get us the view of the federal government on the matter. We hope that he will join us from Enugu as planned. As we wait for the Minister of Labour, let's look into yet another matter on the table for discussion tonight. And it's about the End SARS protest, which was an agitation which took a dramatic turn, an online agitation which now turned into street protests across most parts of the country. Also caught the attention of Nigerians in certain parts of the world. A lot of notable people across the world also lend their voice to the agitation. Today, the African Polling Institute, API, came up with a poll revealing why some Nigerians followed the agitation and some other issues related to the End SARS protest. Precisely, some of the issues raised in that poll include the issues of police reform and what Nigerians think about and what they want in that reforms. Tonight, we're being joined by the Executive Director of the African Polling Institute, Dr. Bell IHUA. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, Dr. IHUA, for joining us tonight. You have put together that poll, but let's first and foremost test the veracity of your work. Your work had less than 2,000 samples that you made in a population of over 200 million Nigerians. Could that be regarded scientifically as accurate?
Thank you very much, Sean. It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me. Precisely, yes, we can say that the data is accurate because it's not about the size. Especially for polls like this, there is the methodology, and the methodology which we apply is a stratified random sampling methodology. So it's not the number of the population or the number of the sample that makes a poll credible or valid, but how the poll was selected. So this was a poll conducted, 1,114 respondents across Nigeria, selected proportionately to the population of the country to ensure that every state, every senatorial district had representations in the selection of the data.
So if we look at it, so I mean, were you able to go to every state of the federation, or you just took samples from the zones?
Now, these were polls conducted telephonically. So we have a database of over 50 million Nigerians, and from that database, we polled Nigerians across the entire senatorial districts, of course, across the entire states of the country, including Abuja, the FCT. And these numbers were picked randomly from those pool of numbers.
So if you look at it then, in summary, what did the poll tell you? Or what is the result, the outcome of the poll? What is it telling Nigerians?
Thank you very much, Seun. I think the poll tells us some very, very interesting findings. So first of all, we can clearly see that about 6 in 10 Nigerians expressed support for the End SARS protest. And this number is interesting because when you look deeper, you understand why we have this sort of 6 in 10 Nigerians. So first of all, we see divides by age, we see divides by geopolitical zones. So we notice that the southern half of Nigeria had more citizens who support the End SARS protest, with about 91% of the sample. We're also compared to 35% of the citizens in the northern half of the country. We also observed that citizens who are senior citizens of age 60 and above, 70% of that population supported the End SARS, compared to 65% of those between the ages of 36 and 60, and 53% of those between the ages of 18. So what this tells us clearly is that while the young people were on the streets campaigning, the older demography were giving a nod, a support to the protest, saying that yes, young people are waking up to their responsibilities to demand for a better country. But beyond that, we also noticed that 60% of those who say they support the poll or they support the End SARS protest said they support it because it's an agitation for a better governance in the country. Only 27% thought that it was about End SARS. So clearly what we see is that the End SARS protest, SARS was like a scapegoat, more or less. This was more of a protest about Nigerians saying enough is enough. We want a better Nigeria that works for all, irrespective of where you come from, what language you speak, or what religion you belong to.
So let's some of the graphics and the representation of the outcome of your poll, I would like to dissect a few of them when I dip my head into some of what you brought forward. I'm a bit worried, and I wanted to know, for example, your poll indicates that more older Nigerians within the ages of 36 to 60 years or 60 years and above supported the End SARS, as against most people whom are said to have majorly been on the street within the ages of 18 and 35 bracket. How so? Because is this poll also considering that more of the agitations, a lot of activities online, on social media?
Yes, indeed. What we see here clearly is education. So we also notice that more educated Nigerians, those with a degree or tertiary education and above, at least 70% of that demography supported the End SARS protest, compared to only 15% of Nigerians with very little or no education at all. So when you look at that demography and you look at the working population and the adult population, we can see clearly why there is this sort of support. So what it means is that we may have seen young people come out on the street, but they receive tacit support from the elderly and from older demography who were behind the scenes and who were really supporting the protest. I think, again, then, you would look at the demography of those who say they supported in southern Nigeria and versus northern Nigeria. You could see that we also asked the question, if you have been personally exposed to police brutality in the last 5 years. The data showed that 18% of Nigerians said that they had been exposed personally to police brutality in the form of, one, financial extortion, secondly, intimidation and harassment, thirdly, stop and search or unlawful arrest, and fourthly, assault, physical assault or battery. So these were the findings that came out, and this is why Nigerians are saying that we support this protest, because we are not just talking about police brutality here, but beyond police brutality, we need a country that works for everyone.
So it is a more or less an elitist movement, an elitist-backed agitation. That's what you discovered, isn't it?
I wouldn't use the word elitist. What I would say is more or less an informed movement of educated Nigerians. So as you see, the data amongst the educated, and what are we talking about? We're talking about graduates who people have finished work or do not have jobs. As you know, the level of unemployment in the country at the moment is 28.1%. The level of underemployment, people who are graduates but are just doing something little to hold body and soul together, about 27.45%. So when you put that together, we have a situation of 55.6% of our population either unemployed or underemployed. This is clearly a recipe for people to be available for protest. Besides, we have a situation of a protracted strike action of the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian universities. And because of that, we have idle students who are available to participate in protests of this nature. One key question we also asked was, when the protesters were called to back down from their protests, why did they not listen? We found out from the study that most of the protesters did not listen because of an increasing public distrust towards government. A poll recently has shown that there is a huge gap in the trust level that Nigerians have for the government. Besides, there's also the issue of government failure to achieve or to deliver past promises that have been made to the people. So because of that, we have a situation where all this put together, and in the case of unemployment, people are saying, no, we do not just want a quick call to leave the streets, we want to see much more.
So, briefly, before we go into our break on the program, did you find out also whether or not people understand the core of the reforms that are being agitated for?
Yes, indeed, Shehu. The average Nigerian is not looking for much. What the average Nigerian is looking for, it's a better life where they can stay, live in their communities with security, where they can have access to power, where they can have access to good roads. And so these are the things they're asking for, and education. So when we have a situation of ASU being on strike, we have a situation of heightened insecurity, we have a situation of unemployment, massive unemployment, you will not be surprised if at all, as a pollster, we could clearly see that this was coming, but we were not sure when it will actually come. And let me say that it is not yet to Uhuru that the protests are currently not going on the streets does not mean that these agitations have been quenched. These agitations are still on, they are still strong, and government needs to look critically into addressing the issues that affect the ordinary Nigerian.
Dr. Belli, who are still with us, because what particularly drew my attention is the involvement and the support that the NSAS agitation got from older citizens who are in fact above the age of 60 years. 70% of those you poll said they supported it. That got my attention. But also the underlying factors that affect this agitation, we would like to take up on them when we return from this break. And of course, if the Minister of Labour joins us before then, we'll also talk to him and get the reaction of federal government on the protracted ASU strike. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone. We were making an attempt at doing a follow-up on the conversation of yesterday. We're concerned the fact that Nigerian students, young Nigerians, are still at home after about 6 months of university lecturers being on strike. And so they had a meeting 2 days ago with the federal government. The panel included the federal government delegation and the university lecturer delegation. That meeting deadlocked. Yesterday, we spoke with the president of ASU, Professor Ogunyemi, who brought forward some of the agitation of the lecturers. Let me quickly remind you of those agitations and the demands by the university lecturers. And they are asking, they're saying that the federal government is not committed to some of their demands. Take a look at what they are saying. These are some of the demands of the university lecturers. Release of revitalization fund in line with the 2013 MOU. They claims that they've had this agreement several years ago, but the government is not keeping to it. They're saying also they're asking for the payment of arrears of end academic allowances, inauguration of visitation panels to all federal universities, and renegotiation of the 2009 federal government ASU agreement and the proliferation of state universities. Those are the issues that were brought to the table. Particularly popular out of these demands is the issue of the payroll system, which the university lecturers are saying it's not in favor of the lecturers. In fact, the president of ASU yesterday told us that it comes to the point that some professors go home with about 8,000, and some of them have not been paid for several months. We approached the federal government, spoke with the Minister of Labor and Employment. He is expected to join us tonight on the program, and we're still hoping that he will join us to give Nigerians a reaction on what has been a deadlock for several months. Let's get back to the conversation on the issue of NSAS and the agitation. That agitation from online went onto the streets of Nigeria, and eventually it dovetailed into what miscreants and some thugs had taken over, and at the end of the day led to what became uncontrollable, and looting and all sort of issues came into the matter. But the agitation, taking away from those activities of miscreants and hoodlums, we are analyzing tonight a poll that was done by the African Polling Institute led by Dr. IHUA, and some of the issues at the heart of those peaceful agitation. Let's get back to the conversation now with Dr. IHUA, the Executive Director of African Polling Institute. Thank you so much, Dr. IHUA. If you look at some of the issues that came out of this agitation, on the reforms for police, or the police reforms, and the heart of it is the feelings and the experience of some of those whom you spoke with, who says they personally experienced some of this issue. What are those things they wish they could see happen urgently?
Thank you very much. Seun, you touched on the very important point just before we went on the break, and I wish to touch on that briefly. You were asking the question of why the elderly or the much older citizens of the country seem to support the NSAS protests. The truth of the matter is that the elderly citizens have seen better days in the past. So anytime we speak to them, they tell us what was the Nigeria in the 80s or what was Nigeria in the 90s, a country that was safe, that they could travel all the way from Lagos to Karanamoda or drive from Sabongida to Ugeli, and it was a safe country. They would tell us about their university days in universities of Ibadan or Ife or ABU Zaria, University of Port Harcourt, and how, they had access to some of the best quality of education that this country have ever seen. And they see the difference of what we have in the country today, and they can clearly tell that Nigeria is no longer where it used to be. And this is simply the reason why we have much older citizens of the country supporting the NSAS movement. But back to your question on what Nigerians want to see. The truth of the matter is Nigerians are still seeing images and videos of police brutality or military brutality on civilians. There are incidents of arrests, there are incidents of house-to-house search for COVID-19 materials and all of that. And it does not show commitment to the cause that Nigerians want brutality brought to an end. I think a lot needs to be done by the side of government as a show of confidence and as an opportunity to build the trust of citizens that they have to speak to the police and they have to speak to the military personnel to desist from further abuse or further assault of citizens. The images and the videos that Nigerians are seeing do not speak well about the commitment of government to bring a halt to police brutality. So I think first things first, they want to see that across the country, there's been a halt to every form of police brutality. If you have a suspect, charge the suspect to court and let the court determine whether or not they are guilty, instead of taking laws into your hands to abuse or to assault them before they have been brought to any competent court of jurisdiction.
So if you look at some of the reasons why some people back out of the protest, the NSAS protest, you did say that the agitation has not really gone. It's still there. Some have given their reasons, and part of the reasons from your report shows that hoodlums took over or hijacked the activities of the protesters. What are the other issues that came to the fore?
Very well so. As I said, 35% of those we spoke to were not in support of the NSAS protest. And interestingly, 4% said they were unaware that there was any protest. That was surprising, but that was what we found. So when you look at those 35% that said they were not in support, the bulk of them said they were not in support because they thought this was a great protest, peaceful protest. However, at some point, hoodlums and thugs took over the protest. So again, that should tell you that among those 35%, there were still people who were sympathetic or in some ways in support of the protest, but because it became messy where hoodlums took over the protest in certain states, in certain regions, and began to loot, that dampened the sort of the support that they had for the protest. But beyond that, other reasons why those demographics said that they were not in support of the NSAS protest was because some of them felt that SARS had done some great job at curbing robbery and very violent crimes in some states of the country, which is the truth. And some of them also feel that SARS had already been disbanded. So if SARS had been disbanded, why then should Nigerians continue to protest? But the big picture here is that the protest, is not just about SARS. The protest, as I will say, is that SARS was used as a scapegoat for the agitation of a better Nigeria for all.
Dr. Bell IHUA, Executive Director of the African Polling Institute, thank you for your work, and I hope that this has already illuminated the minds of many people as to how Nigeria stands in this and perhaps the agitation and what government needs to do. Thank you so much indeed for coming on tonight.
Always a great pleasure to be with you, Sean. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, our expectations tonight are that the federal government will come with some explanations to Nigerians on the reasons why the strike action and the downtooling of the university lecturers are protracted for this long, 6 months, and students are being away from their classrooms. When will they go back? We're hoping that the federal government will speak to us, and we're hoping that the minister will be our guest on the program. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight on the show. I'm Sean Okimale. Bye-bye.